Hello friends, and welcome to our shared spiritual practice for Christmas. We continue our journey of diving more deeply into the mystery of Incarnation, not just as a concept or a theological idea, but as a way to expand our awareness and experience a deeper connection with God, with ourselves, with others, and with our world. So once again, let's begin. Take a few moments to center yourself. Focus on your breathing and on making it deeper and slower. Feel the air filling your lungs and bringing life into your body. And feel the cleansing as you exhale. Ground yourself in your space and on the earth. And prepare your mind and your heart, your body and your spirit for your practice today. Remember that you can pause the video at any time if you need to stay with any element of your practice or reflection. And then when you're ready, light the central candle. It's known as the Christ candle. And sit in stillness and silence for a moment. You may want to gaze into the flames or close your eyes, whatever is best for you. And now become aware of what's happening inside you. What thoughts are dominating your thinking? What emotions are you processing? What feelings in your body are significant for you in this moment? And what tasks that you need to do are pressing in on you? Take some time to write these things down in your journal, and when you're done, lay the journal and everything in it aside for the moment. We'll return to it later in our practice. And so I'll give you some time to do this for now. I can't imagine that I'm the only person to find Christmas a little strange. Think about it. The traditional story is that God, who is outside of the world, or perhaps even outside of the universe, enters creation through a single human being in a single point in history. This one child, born in obscurity to humble parents in humble circumstances, is the only physical manifestation of God in all of human history. And through the life, death, and resurrection of this one human being, the entire world is saved. The nature of this salvation is also a little strange. Jesus is punished by God and dies as if he's the only sinner, so that every sinful human being can be seen by God to be free of sin. We're forgiven for everything we've done wrong, and we are given a ticket to heaven. And all we have to do is believe, as in agree with intellectually, this story. But the language around Christmas makes no sense if the story I've just described is the only Christmas story we have. For example, when does the peace on earth and goodwill to humankind happen in that story? And how does the death of this one man bring about such a world of peace if his death is only about forgiveness of sins? In this traditional story, there is only ever one incarnation, and Jesus is it. It is a one-time, never-to-be-repeated event in which God does for us what we cannot do for ourselves. We are not active participants pretty much in any way. We are simply passive recipients of a gift that only really has value for after we die. Now, I know that this isn't the only way the Christmas story is told or interpreted, but it is the dominant narrative in our world at this point in history. And it does shine through even in the carols we sing every year. But what if there's a different way to engage with the Christmas story? What if Christmas isn't about a once-off incarnation? What if Christmas is actually calling us to recognize something that is fundamentally true about our cosmos? And what if it's in discovering this universal truth that we discover how to bring true peace and goodwill to our earth? Richard Rohr teaches that in Jesus, the cosmic Christ is manifested in a way that is designed to open our eyes to the incarnation of Christ within us all. In Jesus, we see not a once-off event, but the revelation of a basic truth about all reality. Now, this is not a new idea in Christian thought. I've often quoted the words of Athanasius that speak to exactly this view of incarnation. He became what we are so that he might make us what he is. Or perhaps we could paraphrase it to say that he became what we are to show us that we already are what he is. From this perspective, Christmas isn't so much about the birth of Christ as it is about the birth of a whole new way of being, based on seeing our own nature as little incarnations of the divine, and based on living in the experience of God's presence within us, among us, and around us always. And the Christmas story, which is really just the precursor to the Jesus story, is all about revealing the nature of this incarnate God to us. In Christ, we see that God is not belligerent, angry, destructive, bloodthirsty. Rather, we see that the divine nature is creative, inclusive, benevolent, and self-giving. We see that God is truly, eternally, and infinitely love. This restorying of Christmas is not just an academic exercise. It's not just about interesting ideas or trying to find some new way to explore an all too familiar story. When we engage with Christmas from this larger, cosmic, and very personal perspective, it has the potential to change us and our world significantly. When we enter into the Christmas story like this, and we begin to live its truths, we discover that it really can lead us to peace and reconciliation and justice and compassion, inclusion and wholeness and love. It can liberate us from the polarization, the hatred, the inequality, and the violence of our human existence. And it can connect us with a reality that is deeper and richer and more vibrant and creative than anything we can find in traditional religious narratives. So how do we access this deeper reality that Christmas invites us into? I would suggest that we only really need to do two things. Firstly, we need to ensure that our own picture of God and the Jesus in whom God was incarnated, we must make sure that it aligns with this all-encompassing view of God. And we need to ensure that whatever we believe about God's nature conforms with what we see revealed in Jesus Christ. And then secondly, we need to work as we embrace our own nature as incarnations to manifest God's love as best we can. This is where I find following Jesus to be so very helpful. He gives us a picture of what living in divine love looks like in the real world. We just have to apply it to our own unique time and place. And as we seek to live in love, we can begin to recognize that we are not only human. We are capable of so much better than our worst, most destructive selves. We are children of God in whom the divine presence dwells, and we are participants in the saving work of God. We have a role to play in our own salvation and in the liberation and healing of our world. And it's only when we embrace our nature as little incarnations that we can participate in making the Christmas promise a reality. I pray that we will all have the courage and wisdom to embrace what Christmas tells us about ourselves and our world and everyone around us. And as we do, may we have not just a happy Christmas, but a Christmas that inspires us to bring joy and peace and love to everyone we can. And so let's sit with these thoughts for a moment. What caught your attention today? What do you feel drawn to think about more? What excites you? What makes you feel uncomfortable? What resonates with you? What do you have questions about? I encourage you again to make a note of these things so that you can carry them with you into the week ahead. And now go back to your journal. And once again, on a fresh page, draw a circle for each of the thoughts, emotions, feelings, and tasks that you identified right at the start of today's practice. Make the circles different sizes depending on your perception of the size or importance of each. Make them closer or further away depending on how each one relates to the others. And then when you've done that, and when you're satisfied with how your diagram looks, think again about the ideas from today's reflection that most spoke to you. And again, draw a circle for each idea, each concept or metaphor or suggestion that resonated with you. And you can use different sizes and different distances to depict how these things relate to you and to each other. And again, when you're satisfied with that diagram, draw lines in whatever way feels right to you, connecting what you learned today with the thoughts, emotions, and feelings and tasks that you identified at the beginning of our practice. Use these lines to help you see how today's reflection speaks into all of these different areas of your life. And make a special note of any significant insights that may arise as you do this work with your diagram. And then take the diagram into the week and live with it, day by day. Return to it and adapt it as necessary as your experiences change through the week. And so now, as we bring today's practice to a close, I invite you once again to write 2 things in your journal that you will carry with you into your life and relationships in the days ahead. The first one is this: what one truth do you want to remember and draw on throughout this week? And then secondly, what one thing can you do to live from this truth in the week ahead? Remember to go back and remind yourself of these 2 things and of the other insights you've received from today's practice throughout the whole week. And so now, as we return to our daily routines, may we go in a deeper awareness of incarnation, and may we remain open to experience this incarnation more deeply every single day.